Hey, everybody. If you have some shares or questions, let's go ahead and unmute yourself or type in. Otherwise, I'll jump in and we'll do one of the pieces as a practice. Actually, there's a little thing I wanted to show you to amplify it a bit.
Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
Hey, Miss Linda.
Hey, hi. So before we get to practice, I need help with practice because, like what we just did before in the Astara session, and we did, of course, a lot of this in this class, the breathing through, right?
Uh-huh.
The
Hmm.
breathe. Okay, I do find when I'm breathing, like I do the rows and I breathe through it. When it's an object, I don't have any problem with the like essence thing and the breathing
Hmm.
through. But like in Astara just now, when you said, a situational thing, what's up in your life right now? It's like,
Hmm.
okay, situational is
Hmm.
like I couldn't connect into this idea of that breathing through it.
Right.
Any guidance you can give us on
Yeah, it's a little bit harder. That's why like we kind of like even how we did that meditation, it's more of a practice run than the actual meditation. Like we there's like skill sets that need to be developed. And so like even with Stara, I did it a little bit different way where there is there's the streams and the practices that we do all the time, but I did these like modules that people could use to practice. And even the one with the breathing through, I don't even know if that one's been released yet. I think it's about to be released,
Mm,
the crystal cosmosis, but it's but basically you're developing this ability first with like things that are in your mind. So like the issue with the rose is really you're just recalling a memory of something, or it's a figment of your imagination. And then, we do that with crystals, like how you would utilize like lapis is the traditional chemical thing that you would start with this, where you breathe in the essence and then you breathe through it. And then you even take it a step further and you're breathing the essence in and then moving it to different parts of the body and things like that. And so there's that component. When it starts to be active situations, and then one that I didn't say tonight, but is what we kind of are practicing is past experiences. That's a little bit harder because you're looking at something that is not an object, it's a thing in motion, right? So even with a thing in motion, our intellectual mind has still created like a structure for that. Like so you see like a thing, like maybe a difficulty at work or some situation that's at work. It's like, there's this ongoing thing at work, but it's like, okay, situation at work that becomes almost like an object, even though there's a lot of movement and you're looking at the dynamics of that, you're still working it, right? So just like the rose, you're breathing in the essence and then you're breathing through just whatever you're perceiving there. Now, the idea is, for one, you're shifting your mind from fixating on negative stimuli to positive stimuli. You're tapping into the divinity both within yourself and in the situation. And by breathing through it, you're tapping into divinity, but like the divinity that you're tapping into is divine intelligence. So you're tapping into the light or the consciousness that flows through everything. So a lot of times when we look at a rose or we look at the situation, we see it for what it is. Like, oh, it's this plant, it's this flower, it gives off scent. This thing at work, it's this person did this, I did that. We're supposed to be doing this, whatever that is. But on a grander scale, these things are part of our development. They're part of how we're refining who we are, and it's part of how we're refining, bringing the soul essence forth rather than the lower nature, or just identifying with the lower nature. And so, out of all of them, the active situations and past experiences are the hardest, because it is motion, but it's not. But usually, when we start tapping into this, you're dealing with something that's usually at least partially difficult, if not difficult. So you're like, I don't want to breathe this essence into me or whatever. And then when you breathe out, it's like there's a little bit of a hesitation of that as well. Like, you know what I mean? We're working through potential blocks that we have in our mind about how we see and judge these situations. And really, it's not about that it's right or wrong. It's that you're just trying to tap into the essence, the creative essence that flows through everything. And if you think about like these difficult situations, a lot of times we're trying to hold them off or hold them out to keep them at bay. And really what we're doing is we're energizing them and making them like worse, basically. Like, we're amplifying whatever it is. And if it's a conflict, by being upset and trying to struggle with the conflict and trying to make it go away, we're actually bringing the conflict to us to an even greater degree. You're bringing it into fruition. So by going through and like tapping into this, you're actually integrating it so that at some point, if there's enough integration, the intuitive mind will take it and then start to resolve it. Just like you would have your life flash before your eyes if you had a near-death experience and you come out and you go, oh, there's some things I gotta clean up. There's some things I gotta resolve. It's the same mechanisms. You're just not having a near-death experience. So you're still wanting to utilize those pieces of your intuition, which you really don't have to consciously go, I want to do this, I want to do that. Just make the connection, and the intuitive part of the mind will take over. The intuitive part of the mind is also drawing upon things from your past incarnations. So you have skill sets there that you're not really consciously aware of because you didn't cultivate them in this lifetime. And two, if there's something there that is being worked out, or you're needing to learn a lesson, or there's some sort of debt, in the intuitive state, you're going to work it out like in a way where it's going to have the least amount of impact, like negative impact. Where when our intellect gets into it, we just kind of beat everything up. Like, we just, but the intuitive mind can take in the information and go, this is what's going on. Let's resolve this right here, right now. Right. And so that's what starts to happen with the active situations and the past experiences. It's not even like you release them or process them. They just start moving, and they're not like hooked into you like before. Like it's just literally you just start getting them to move. The reason why they cause us suffering is we get stuck in it a little bit. We get wrapped up, and then there starts to be little to no movement, and then it starts to be, well, I can move, but this has to happen, or that has to happen, or it's too painful, or it's whatever. And so the idea would be to keep evolution happening in the situation, but also to keep the movement. So even if there was some pain, some trauma, whatever it might be, that you just kind of move past it rather than getting stuck with it. And so the hardest one, coming back to what you were saying, is those active situations and past experiences. And because there's a lot of movement, or the situation might be dynamic, start with what you can perceive, so you inhale the essence and then you exhale like your essence. Or sometimes you might see light coming out, you might just see clear, or it might just be you feel your breath and your attention moving past, like through the you to the situation and then through it. And then as you do that a few times, you'll notice that the situation gets bigger and more dynamic, like you're starting to perceive greater levels or pieces of it. And as that happens, just let it happen. No need to stimulate it. If it's not happening, that's okay. If it happens, that's okay too. And then the same goes for past experiences. You tap into the past experience, you inhale the essence, and then you breathe through it. And those, out of everything, probably will be the hardest to generate the movement. because they're usually, if it's a negative one, there was usually some sort of pain or trauma in there. And so you're processing it, but that area usually is in a very repetitive state, which means that it lacks light. And sometimes it takes a bunch of light before it will start to kick loose, right? And so, with those, you do the best that you can, but what you'll start to notice is that those things don't bother you as much. Like you'll notice they don't linger in your mind quite as much. But at the same time, there's that saying, the devil you know versus the devil you don't know.
Mm,
Like sometimes it can be a little bit of like, because you take those things out, and that little dance with those situations or something that was at least a little bit predictable in your mind, at least a little bit familiar. And when you start taking them off the table, pretty soon what starts to happen is like, ugh, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what's going to happen. And really what you've done is you've taken the negative things out, but it just goes to show how much our negative experiences also define like who we are and how we see the world.
mm,
And over a period of time, you'll notice that everything just gets quieter and more peaceful. But there is this little period of um, not being sure because you've wiped those things away. Basically, you've moved past them.
mhm.
Um,
So this the fact that it's so hard for me is not a reason to choose something else. Like,
no,
because
it's going to be that way kind of no matter what.
okay,
Like the active situation and the past experiences out of everything is the hardest. Like
okay.
even if you go to a teacher or a guru or teachings or a statue, all those, they're pretty defined and the idea is not that abstract. But when we start doing the active situation and the past experiences, those two things are the hardest, like by far, like the
Mhm.
hardest.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't read anything into like, I went through this little phase where like, this one's especially hard. It probably means something. And it usually just means that it's either a little complex and your mind couldn't get it, or there's some sort of pain that's there that might be conscious or unconscious. When I do this in some situations, I'll start remembering, oh, this person said this person said that. And I'll start to realize, yeah, that person was really saying some really kind of crappy things.
Mm,
Like we kind of block those things out, even though it still registers as like hurt feelings. But then you go, oh, yeah, that person acted out like last week. But if I do these past experiences and did things with that person over the last couple of years, the signs were there. I just never picked up on it. You know what I mean? Uh,
yeah, the way I would define what I'm working on is, and it's interesting because the more we're doing this, of course, the more it's shaking, which is a good thing, and I know that
mhm.
gets uncomfortable, is what I would call a sense of righteous anger
Sure,
at man's inhumanity to man.
sure, sure, sure.
And
Yeah.
that's like what keeps coming, when you say what's coming up, it's
That's
like
that's an easy one to tap into. All you have to do is open up the news or walk outside
exactly.
and look around and
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And so
yeah,
I can feel that like sense of like, I have a right to this anger. I have a right to be,
right,
and it's like, and I really want to like, I want to shake
yeah,
that loose, right? I want to like
yeah,
breathe through it. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But like even if you look at like from the point of view of the news, there's a bunch of weird, crappy things happening right now, a
Right.
bunch.
Right.
And if you look at it from the point of view of like a bigger picture, it's also like the changing of an age. And there are times where humanity has like acceleration in evolution. Like there's these evolutionary jumps that happen.
Mm.
And there's that idea of growing pains. It usually is not because we all thought some positive things and said, hey, let's grow in this way because it's going to be awesome. It's usually a bunch of crappy things that we're all having to deal with, and then at some point we get tired of it, or out of need we make some choices and start evolving in a particular way. If you look at a lot of the things that improve the quality of our life just as a normal, like, in normal person in society, like the things that improve um, mm, how we survive, a lot of it is byproducts of inventions that were because of war. you know
Mm.
wasn't because there was this awesome thing that somebody needed. It was like some sort of weird conflict, some sort of something that somebody had to address an issue. And I would love it if that we evolved in a different way, but it can happen. It just doesn't happen very often, you know.
Okay,
Um,
thank you very much.
yeah, does that help?
Well, I guess it soothes me a little bit to know that it is difficult. Like this isn't necessarily easy. Like, and
No. That's
I'm not
why,
that
like,
kind.
practice on a rose,
Yeah.
practice on like a stone or an object, a statue,
Mm.
something like that. Practice on that for a while. I mean, there's a reason, like, we've been practicing the thing about put your awareness on a situation, put your awareness on past experience. There's a reason I didn't just jump right to it, is because it's hard. Like
Yeah.
it's like just getting used to like tapping into a situation takes practice. But then to say, okay, now breathe in the essence and breathe out. Like we're going to be doing a slow roll through it. So, you know, it's not going to be something that you get like just overnight, but over like a month or two, you'll look back and you go, God, I'm doing it way better than I did a month ago.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I mean, situation and past experiences, especially the more nasty they are, or the more painful they are, the harder they are to tap into. Like I have one that I'm working on that I don't know, I was about 15 or something. And it was just a bad day. And you know, I've tapped into it a bunch of times and it's better than it was, but it's still, when I look at it, there's still not a lot of light there.
Mm.
And there's some situations where the light comes in like that. But even the idea, like how we were just doing in the star meditation, the idea of like you tap into that situation and then you come back. One of the like little tricks is to visualize the ball. Like after you've like gone through and tapped into it,
Mm.
you say you're tapping into, yeah, let's say it's me. I'm tapping into my 15-year-old little trauma day, right? And so I sit there and I breathe in the essence and I breathe through the situation. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm sitting there. So if you were to clairvoyantly observe before I went through and I was doing that recalling that past experience, like there's a decent ball of light that was surrounding me, right? Then I tap into the situation, I breathe in the essence and I breathe it out, I breathe it in and breathe it out. Then if you look at me, there's not really, the ball is not there anymore, right? So that usually means trauma, but what that means also is there's lack of soul essence and there is excess of lower nature energy, right? So we wanted it to at least be like balanced. So you can visualize, like you go back through and you look at the past experience, you come back and you're like, whoa, that didn't feel that great. But then you go back through and you visualize the ball of light. Because what you're doing is you're doing an external like manifestation, materialization, visualization, whatever you want to call it, of the blue pearl, but like in the form. Like you're almost manually making the blue pearl fill the body with light. And then not just to fill the body with light, but then go that situation, that situation, that situation, that situation. Right. And so as that happens, that diminishes our trauma, our feelings, but it it keeps those situations from holding us down, and it helps us to evolve and learn the lessons from those situations, and that they don't like hold us down or hold us back anymore. So basically what you're doing is you're moving light to those situations so that whatever the bad or the traumatic was, that it stops impacting you, and then you flip it and you start evolving because of it.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just me jumping in.
Yeah.
Tonight when we were doing the Astara and we had the person event, this was the first time I was really able to breathe through and touch essence and feel it like emanating back through me
Right.
again.
Is that
And
when you
I've been
started
doing-
grinning?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and
Stu-
I've been
let-
doing this for how long?
Let's
you
do
know?
a reenactment of Samantha right now. She was like, and I was like, well, something happened. Because she's already always like just so. Yeah, and it's not gonna be like, oh, across the board, like you'll hit situations and sometimes it'll flow very easily and sometimes it doesn't. But basically what you're doing is you're you're tapping into divine intelligence or divine creativity, whatever you want to call it. There's that component, but you're also like evolving out of those situations. You're letting the soul or the Buddha nature be the physician in the situation rather than the intellect or the lower nature. The intellect and the lower nature is always going to come from the point of view of conflict, trying to resolve it through, you know, power struggle, turning away from it, or just simply repetition, right? Like not just repetition, but compulsively recreating the situation wherever you go. And so you're breaking free of that by going through and doing this practice. And in doing so, you're moving from being more under the direction of lower nature and more being directed by essence, by your essence or soul, Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it. So yeah.
I think we could do a practice. now if
Okay.
you'd like.
So how about let's just do the first one because narcissist is yummy. And let's do like they're all yummy, but so this practice, what you're trying to plant the seed in the intellect is unity and synthesis. And by doing this, it produces the ability to tap into um, energy with consciousness or the intelligence that flows through all things. So you're going to pull out your spikenard and beginning. Oh, you know what? Let's just do, instead of doing a whole process, I was going to teach you a little something, and it ties right into what Linda was saying. Okay, forget what I said about like we're going to do this, we're going to do that, right? Pull out your narcissist and pull out your astral projection. Okay, so we're just going to jump to number 5. Your awareness is on your body. Take some long, slow, deep breaths with the narcissist. Your awareness is on your body. Long, slow, deep breath. Okay, so now active situation. First, just inhale with your awareness on the active situation. And now breathe in the essence from the situation. And then as you're looking at the active situation, breathe through it. Move your attention and awareness all the way through the situation. Okay, how did that feel? Feels good, yeah. And so now pull out your astral projection and same situation, your awareness is on the situation. So you're inhaling the essence, you're breathing through that situation with the astral projection blend. Okay, and then just let it go for a moment. Notice how you feel. How did that feel? Mhm. So now, narcissist, same situation. Inhale the essence and breathe through the situation. Okay, just pause and let go. How did that change you? Linda, I'm just curious, how did that treat you?
Go ahead, Linda.
There we go. Well, actually, there's a lot of tears going on right now.
Is it a sad situation or is it just tears
It's
came out?
it's what I'm looking at is like it's somehow like it's probably connected way past experiences, like past life experiences and stuff.
Sure.
I have this deep-seated anger at humanity for
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And so as we're doing it, what just occurred to me though in this last part was, okay, so consider the anger like a rose, right?
Yeah,
And work with
yeah.
it that way. So the tears are just coming, I think, because it's just
And
processing all the stuff that goes with that.
well, and like going back to what we're talking about, like seeing things in the news and seeing things that happen in the world, some of it is super sad. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Like, as much as we try to, we of course we want to bless it, we want to try to make it better, but I think the thing with trauma, I noticed this back when I was doing therapy all the time, even with psychologists and stuff, is that trauma is hard to be present with. Like it's really super hard to be present with it. And it's very easy to turn away. And then once we turn away, we start coming up with little strategies on how to manage it.
yeah,
And, you know, I think there's something to be said when you can look at something that's sad and go, that is sad. And it brings a tear to your eye. And it's like, yeah, it should bring a tear to your eye. It's sad. It's like really sad. Instead of like, we kind of have as a culture where we turn away from some of these things and we just don't like really pay attention when, you know, yeah, there might not even be anything that you can do. But at the same time, when we see a bigger picture, you can see that humanity is evolving its way out of the situation, just like how we're talking about evolving out of our little personal situation. Humanity is doing it. And, it'd be great to say that we're a lot more evolved than we are, but we're not.
yeah,
We are where we are, you know.
right, right.
Movement
So to
happens
be able to,
very, very slowly.
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember like one of the quotes from the Dalai Lama, like right after he left Tibet, and he said something like, "We were just about to change. We were just, we were right there. We were about to, you know, be better." And then it, you know, whatever.
and we missed the opportunity.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah,
Like today, I was thinking about Atlantis, and I
yeah,
was thinking about the
yeah,
Lemurians, and I was thinking about all the
yeah,
times in the ancient history where
yeah,
man has not quite made it.
yeah,
And I kind of feel like we're coming up on that point again, and
yeah,
I just am feeling that you're right about like being able to look at it and say, yeah, that is sad because
yeah.
lots of times in the circles we move in and things like that, there's a tendency to say, well, that's how man evolves. That's the way it is.
Right, right.
And it's like,
Divine plan, da 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 da.
yeah, yeah, but
And we have
that's
some
messed
little
up.
phrase that we can just be dismissive about it, and
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
like, but it is. It's
yeah.
like it's what I loved what you just said about being able to look at it and say, you know what, that is sad.
It is sad. The one that gets me is the shootings all the time.
Yeah,
It's
that.
heartbreaking. I
Yeah.
even did a thing where I partnered up with a couple of people and we actively, and some of them were survivors from some of these things. And
Mm.
we tried to actively reach out to some of the groups, like when those things happened, to be able to just for free provide services and things like that. And it was one of the hardest, most frustrating things. We couldn't put ourselves in the situation to provide relief or help to somebody for free.
Mm.
Even in those situations, it was, there's so many weird things that go around those situations that, I don't know. Like one situation, we were about to do it, and some journalist got a hold of the people that we were working with, and took a bunch of pictures and everything seemed fine. And then it came out that journalist had taken a bunch of pictures and like sold the pictures for like $250,000, whatever. And basically it was just a money grab for that guy, that guy.
Oh, wow.
And we were just about to start doing therapy with this group, and they were like, yeah, we don't trust anybody right now. And like, from their point of view, I get it. Like, I completely get it. I mean, I tried to do a thing where I was like, we'll have super strong non-disclosures, we'll all sign them, we'll all waive any sort of, legal defense, whatever it is. We'll make this so that you feel comfortable. And they were just like, it's too much work. Like, basically they politely told us just to get out. Like, and we weren't doing anything wrong. Like, it was just the state of things, and that was probably 10 years ago. It's even worse now. And so some of these things are really sad, you know. Like that situation, it made me even feel sad about we can't even like properly help the ones that have been wounded,
Yeah.
you know. How sad is that?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. It's an interesting thing, but like all these situations, things are better than they were 500 years ago. Things are better than they were 1,000 years ago. Even though we see them as being super negative, they're still better than the way that it was. And we're coming into the golden age. So there's always the potential for bigger and better things. But even that too is going to pass. We'll head into the dark age again eventually, Ugh.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get it, but we probably won't.
It's
We'll get it a little bit, and then we'll have to do the whole thing again, you know.
yeah.
But that's divine intelligence. Divine intelligence is cycles, and
See, and I want to argue with divine intelligence. I'm sorry. I'm
yeah,
thinking
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not very intelligent if you ask me,
Right.
but I know I
But
can't.
yeah, but it will. It's an evolutionary process that just takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And it starts to be more about the process than about the incidents.
Right.
I think that's the one big thing with like really tapping into this process is you start to get a bigger and bigger picture where the local incident stops having the weight and value that it did before. Still sucks,
Mhm.
but it's not the overwhelming suck. It's just like, another time we didn't get it, or I got it like this instead of like this. But next time I'll do better.
And since we've been doing this work and this practice, I noticed that in the littler things in my
Yeah,
life. Right?
yeah,
And so,
yeah,
so I do know you're right. It's like the
yeah.
process here, what we're doing is definitely creating movement, like you said, and bringing
Yeah.
light to situations. And I
I
can sense and feel that. Yes.
I would love to be able to say that it could be different, but like really the harnessing of divine intelligence eventually produces love, divine love or providence.
Mm.
So if we're wanting to bring a kind of stability into not just our lives, but into the life of others and the life of a society or whatever, the more that we tap into the cycles and divine intelligence, the more that we have the potential for producing love. Without intelligence, there is no love.
Mm.
And so it's just the step that we're at right now, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So And we're gonna do that one again. I just wanted to see if that was easier for you, like by going through and doing that, or more insightful, or
Definitely. I mean, it definitely is like I said, it started to create movement, which was,
yeah,
comfortable, but good.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take it a step further, and this is like a little hack for like when you're really doing this and you want to get like down and dirty really quick, is you can just take the oil, like here we're using narcissus, and then the astral projection, and you can go really hard at active situations and past experiences. So let's do still actually let's do a past experience, right? So recall some past experience. It does not have to be negative, but you know, might as well move something. So make it a little bit negative. And your awareness is on it. You're taking long, slow, deep breaths with a narcissist. You're inhaling the essence and you're breathing through the past experience. And then let that go for a moment. And then pull out the astral projection. Same past experience. Inhale the essence in, exhale through the past experience. Inhaling the essence, exhaling through the situation. And then just pause and let go. And then again, the narcissus. You're inhaling the essence, you're exhaling through the situation. And then let that go. Again, the astral projection, same thing. Past experience. You're inhaling in the essence, you're exhaling through the form. Now, pick up your narcissus again. This time, we're going to do the quadrants of the aura. Left side, head to toe. You're taking long, slow, deep breaths, inhaling the narcissus. Your awareness is on your whole left side. Move your awareness to the front side. Your awareness is head to toe down the front. Face, throat, chest, abdomen, pelvis, down the legs to the tops of the feet. Then the right side of the body, head to toe, whole right side. And then the back side of the body. And then just be still for a moment. Now, pull out your astral projection. Back to that same past experience. Breathe in the essence. Breathe through the situation. And then just be still. Pull out the narcissist again. You're inhaling left side of your body. Front side of your body. Right side of your body. And the back side of your body. Oh, okay, letting go. So how did that feel for you guys? So the trick is to do back and forth between whatever you're using in 5 or 6. Here it's narcissist. You're using that. You're still following the protocol, but you're going back and forth a couple of times with the astral projection. And then at some point, you move to doing the 4 quadrants. Here it's with narcissists again, but with the astral projection, you still stay on working either that active situation or the past experience. So we'll cut this up and make it a little separate excerpt. Can we have?
Just for this specific practice?
Yeah, just for
Okay.
tonight. Right,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. So we'll have that edited and set up for you so you can do like a little, like if you look at it, you could do a little 10-15 minute thing and cover a lot of ground very quickly. Does anybody want to share like how they felt, their experience, or do you just want to share how you felt?
I didn't want to stop. I don't know, like, it just felt like
You didn't want to stop?
every time we started doing the quadrants again, it was like something just got like more anchored.
Yeah. So part of like, so what she was saying is like every time we did the quadrants, it felt like more anchored. You're programming your aura. You're not just cleaning it. You're telling the aura, I want you to do this, right? And so here you're telling the aura, I want unity and synthesis. and I want the intelligence. I want the intelligence that flows through all things. I want the aura to be in harmony with that. Like I want it to attract that. I don't want it to repel that.
And then go ahead, Channing, and then Barbara.
Hey, Miss Jenny.
Hey, Craig.
Hey,
I have noticed, and I've noticed this when we did it in class as well, when we were doing the sides of the body.
Uh-huh.
I have a hard time moving out of the left side and going around. Like I want to just stay on one side. So I know
Yeah.
the left side really well, but like the other three sides, it's like, oh, it's hard to get to them.
Still work them though, but usually there is one side that you're like kind of your sweet spot. You know, that side of the aura is tied more to like observation and observation. Like you know, if you really want to boil it down. And you know, it's an important piece because without observation, the rest of it doesn't really fly very well. But still work the 4 quadrants. You might notice that in some situations, other parts might be a bigger piece, but you know, it's really kind of tied more to how you go through and process things. And so, yeah, I mean, if you want to linger there for a little bit longer, you could. But the goal is to develop all 4 quadrants in the situation because that is like here we're dealing with something in the physical body and the instinctive responses, but later it will become about emotions and the mind and all that. But first we got to get this part down.
Yeah, I definitely feel lopsided. And
Yeah.
the side that I feel like I tend to the least is the back, and that's where I carry most of my physical stress.
Yeah.
Like
That
that.
almost everybody that's the same. Like, you know, because the backside is all the past, it's the stress, it's the things that you put aside to push through in a particular moment or a particular situation. So when you're really wanting things to like kind of fall away, that backside is really what gets worked. And if you look at most people, the backside versus the side, you know, either left side, right side, front, it's usually by far the most congested. So that's kind of normal. Yeah.
Okay. Can
Yeah.
you look at my backside later?
Sure.
Thank you, Greg.
You're so.
And go ahead, Barbara, and then we have another share.
Mhm. Hey, Miss Barbara.
Hey there. This last round, I was yawning a lot on the 4 quadrants. So I don't know if I was programming something or still flushing something out or what was happening, but
Well, yawning is a release of energy. You know, you're expelling something out, but it's also like shifting from fight flight to rest and repair. So you're in the middle of processing something and like shifting, releasing, letting go, processing, whatever part of that is, it would happen in parasympathetic, which is when you're yawning, is what's starting to happen, is you're starting to go parasympathetic.
right. Okay.
So, yeah, so
Thank you.
awesome. Yeah, awesome. How did you feel about your
That's-
situation? I'm just curious.
Funny you should ask. Um, it's interesting. I caught my logical mind going into a story and saying, now you should look at it this way and look at it this way. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Just- So I had to just put a quick name on it and let it go. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's some movement. I think I need to work it a little more, but
Isn't it such a trip though? Like how much the intellect wants to
oh,
like butt in and go, no, this is what's happening, or this, you need to do this, or this is how you should see it. And
well, then it started rationalizing like, well, you don't have to change that because you're really getting this out of it. And it was just,
Yeah.
it got crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then afterwards, I felt like the ajna was processing something, and I'm like, is
Mhm.
that the logical mind again? Or is that,
well, it will process the flashes of insight and wisdom. So It can be, but a lot of times it's just processing new and abstract information.
Okay,
Yeah, so
thank you.
you're so welcome.
And go ahead, Cindy.
Hey, Miss Cindy.
Hey there. So, my question is for when you're looking at a situation or past situation, um, probably not to make it one of the major incidences, because it seems like I don't know why it popped in my head to do that one, but it sort of just stirred up a whole bunch of things rather than mm, like giving me a handle on it or
Well, you're trying to evolve out of it. So we're still not trying to have like a realization like how we would do like normally. You're just trying to stimulate the ability to move out of it. And so you know, granted, like starting with something smaller where you have like a success and you have like, oh, I know what this feels like, but tackling those big things, those are going to be the things that help you to feel substantially better once you've kind of processed that. Now, when you use the astral projection blend, like the way that we just did in this last process, whatever you're tapping into emotions that emotions and thought processes, but more emotions and feelings that were there, but maybe you weren't consciously aware of. But on the flip side of that, it is one of the more purifying things you can do for releasing the emotions from that situation. So you're tapping into it and almost releasing it at the same time. And even though something might have gotten stirred, um, it's you're moving out of it. And so, you know, if you want to slow down the pace, you could, I would say, do this at nighttime before you go to bed. Go to sleep and you'll process through it. You know, it might take several nights. Like I have some situations where I've been working on for a couple months and it's better, but it's still, it was a pretty crappy day, you know, way back in the day. And you know, it's better than it
okay.
was, but it still needs work. You know what I mean? And so I think everybody has a few of those, but some of us have much bigger ones of those than others, you know.
Okay, well, that's helpful because I was looking for some gauge to tell me
It's not so much about like you're wanting
if
to
you won't.
have like some insight or like that happens. Like you might get some insight, but really you're wanting to go, I'm tired of sitting in this stupid restaurant. I want to get up and leave. It's basically like that. Like I'm tired of sitting in this structure of this old past experience. I want to get up and leave. And it's literally like your ability to get up and just walk out of it. You know, like doing healings on like trauma and fears and anxiety and the situations, all that does is make it easier for you to disentangle and eventually walk away. The releasing the trauma doesn't really resolve it. And if you think about even how we talk about helicrism, it releases trauma, but then it helps you to move past the trauma, right? Even there, it's suggesting that even after you've released the trauma, you still have to get up and walk out of the situation. And a lot of times, why we have like if I go back to that situation that I've been working for a while, I'm still entangled in it. Like it was very traumatizing. Like it was, definitely top three worst experiences I've had. And I'm a lot less entangled in it than I was, but I'm still entangled in it. You know, I would love to say I fought the good fight and I moved out of it, but a bunch of other things I can say that for. But this one situation, no. Like it's getting better. Like when I think about it, I don't get upset. Where like even 2 months ago, with a ton of healing, if I thought about it, I would either get sad or angry. And now I just feel, yeah, it sucked, but what am I gonna do? Like, like, so I'm in a better place, but it's still not healed or resolved, or because the thing is when something happens, like I go to that event, or like maybe kind of a thing that you're dealing with, is there's a piece of us that gets trapped there. And so what you're trying to do is you're not just you walking out of that situation, you're trying to get that trapped piece of you to walk out and then have union back with you. So that is also part of you're going to the situation, you're looking at the situation, you're breathing in the essence, you're breathing through it, and then you come back and you do the four quadrants, the ball. When you do
Yeah.
that, it's almost like gluing something back together, like a piece of your ego like got separated. It didn't get fractured, it's like it got compressed and like cut off from the rest of the ego, and it's like you're walking it back to have that union of sorts. And
Okay.
when it comes back, it's going to be a little beat up. You know what I mean? It had a rough time, but as soon as it gets in, like it just kind of starts taking on the qualities of where you're at now. And in a short amount of time, it just kind of becomes an odd memory.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
let's keep working on that, and keep me posted on that, because I'd be curious, but if we need to make some adjustments for you, you let me know.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if I'll go back there for a while. It
Okay,
wasn't that
I
pleasant,
get
but
that too. I get that
yeah.
too. I mean, I'm talking about the one situation. I said it was the top three. I still haven't tackled one and two. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
breaking one arrow at a time. Yeah.
And a question about we didn't do it here, but in the Stara, when you do this focused on a loved one, does does it matter whether that loved one or not is not reciprocal, or
No,
do you need to
no,
use a
doesn't
loved one
doesn't
who's okay?
doesn't matter.
Okay.
All you're doing is you're practicing first doing something like pleasant or relatively pleasant, and then you're starting to move into situations that maybe aren't so pleasant. So first you're getting used to the person and like a pleasant experience or relatively pleasant experience, and practicing that, breathing through it. And so you're getting used to doing it with the person, and then you start moving to, let's do it with a person maybe that's not so nice, or a situation where there's multiple people where it's not so nice. And so it's more like you're still connecting to that person, which is good,
Hmm.
but you're practicing doing it first there before you do things that maybe are a little rougher.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Linda had to leave, but she said, I really appreciate the guidance from tonight. I will work with this process, and I can feel things moving and shifting and know that it will be a helpful way to work.
Okay.
Thank you, thank
Yeah.
you.
And she's going to keep us posted on.
Yeah. And I'll
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that. And then someone else said, this practice has allowed me to rigorously clear and delete a bunch of old emails.
Oh, nice. So, okay, you guys. Well, we're going to be going a little bit deeper this weekend with the body mapping class. I know most of you, or if not all of you, have had that class. And so we're going to be still using the same oils, but we're going to be tapping in and doing some work that's a bit deeper, that definitely plays into the astral projection. And so if you want to deepen your abilities with astral projection and deeper psychological healing, Join us this weekend if you can, and if not, it'll be recorded, but I'd say do it live because it's going to be more interactive than the first time we taught it.
Yeah, so if you took the body mapping and the 3 brains prior, free retake.
Yeah. So, okay, you guys, take care.